Hey there! In this video, I thought it would be a fun idea to walk through the different days of the Advent calendar for the previous week. And since this is the first video in this series, I'm actually going to give you a little bit of backstory as well for the idea I had to come up with this whole project and how AI helped me all along the way. So let's get into it. So for those of you that are a member of the BC Law community, you probably got an email from me last week detailing the release of this Advent calendar. So I wanted to go through each week and actually participate in the days alongside you. I thought that'd be kind of a fun thing to do, show you a little behind the scenes about how I think through some of these tasks and activities that I've provided. And I also thought it'd be fun to showcase the different features of the website and give you a little backstory as well as part of this initial video. And I wanted it to be timely and more or less in real time. I don't want to do too much editing, so hopefully that isn't too distracting to kind of see me typing and thinking and talking aloud as I go through the process. But I've got my computer here, I've got some notes to keep me on track, and I'm going to just go ahead and talk through the process. So before I dive into the Advent calendar, the whole application that I built, I figured I would give you the real quick backstory. And if you're interested in learning more, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk further about the development process and how I worked with our artificial intelligence tools to come up with this fully functioning web application that you're interacting with. So earlier this semester, I actually had this idea to create this content for you. And it came up, I think, in an ATR meeting where I decided, you know, what would be a cool idea would be to release different AI activities to help people sort of either dip their toes in the water or interact with AI tools in a low stakes kind of way. And they can learn different like AI concepts or definitions. They can get a chance to play with some of these tools that they otherwise might not take the time to do. And right before December, I just thought to myself, why don't I just make this thing happen? So like most projects that I come up with recently, I decided to have a chat with ChatGPT. And the way I like to do this is typically I'll kick it off with just a voice chat, or I will, what I'll do is do a voice note on my phone, and then I'll use that transcription and then upload it as sort of a conversational Kickstarter. And then from there, I get an entire idea for this particular project. In this case, I got a whole scaffolding out of basically what a project manager would do. It's called a PRD, or a product or project requirements document. And based off of my conversation back and forth, I laid out all the different features that I wanted to see. I laid out the different web technologies that I wanted to use. And I really just talked to it like a conversational thought partner in terms of the ideas I wanted to share. And from there, we just built on the entire project. So rather than talking like super high level all the time, I figured what I would do is show off some of the features and AI tools that I use to build this whole web application as part of walking through each day this week. So if you haven't checked it out yet, there's a link in the description of this video. I highly recommend going to the AI Advent Calendar webpage, and you can sign in if you'd like. You don't have to in order to participate. You can go through each day anonymously if that's something you want to do. But if you sign in, there's some extra fun features that are enabled for you. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So why don't I go ahead and just click on the first day and just kind of walk you through my idea here. So prior to setting up this web application, I knew I wanted to use a couple tools. There's a few in the web development space, and don't worry, I'm not going to go into coding or anything like that. But there are a couple really powerful AI tools now that integrate with web development software, and you basically can go from idea and just a natural language prompt. Obviously, the more detailed you are, the better results you're going to get. And then it can give you a fully functioning website, which I basically got the skeleton or scaffolding of this website really in about 2 prompts, which was kind of amazing. And this is the Advent grid you're looking at currently. I even got as far as clicking through the individual days and showing you the Advent activity for the day. And the tool that I used, it's something called bolt.new. And I'll leave, why don't I just say this preemptively? I'm gonna leave links in the description to all the different tools I talk about. So if you wanna check some of these things out that may or may not show up in the Advent calendar activities, you can go look at those there. Bolt.new is a free to use tool, and it's literally, you just talk about your idea into a chat window similar to any other large language model, and you get a working web application, potentially, in the end. So once I had all of that lined up, I actually brought it down into my local development environment and then finished off the project with another tool called Cursor, which is another web development tool. It allows you to code alongside an AI assistant. Pair programming is a concept in the web development world where you and a partner are paired up and talking. Typically one person is talking about the features, talking through ideas, the other person is actually writing the code. And this software is set up exactly for that. I could take the wheel and start coding, or I can bring my thoughts and ideas to an AI tool, which is typically going to talk to one of the language models behind the scenes, like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini. There's a couple other models that you have access to, but this software basically facilitates all of that, and it has your entire code base loaded up into the context window, or is able to be quickly referenced. So it's sort of grounded in the truth of your development environment, which is really cool. Okay, enough nerdy code talk. I promise that's the end. Let's take a look at some more features of the website. So the first day here is talking about breaking the ice with an AI tool. And I had a couple sort of proposals for tasks or activities you can do, some challenges to do. So why don't we look at one? I use this as an opportunity to lean on sort of a common thing people have been doing recently on social media, which is to ask ChatGPT, because it has memory of previous conversations that you've had, to essentially ask it, hey, based on everything you know about me, everything we've talked about before, what's one thing that you can recommend to me that I can do with AI to advance my skills this week? Because in the first day challenge, this was sort of the idea, was to just go ahead and get you talking to a chat tool, but ideally about something that you can use to improve upon yourself over the course of this week, or over the course of the month, or over the course of using this AI Advent calendar. So I decided to lean into this memory feature, and I've already asked the question. I've done some of these tasks ahead of time just to save time in this video, but I thought its answer was actually pretty cool, and something that I've been wanting to do honestly for a little while, which is to dive deep into multimodal AI capabilities. So for myself, this would probably involve coding up a quick like MVP web app or something, just to see if I can get the ability to upload images or documents or something and have the AI use its own computer vision skills and capabilities, the multimodal capability where I can give it an image and then I can chat about it in natural language. It's similar to OCR, which it calls out here, but it is a little bit different because it's leveraging all of the power of these large language models to be able to chat with it. The model can sort of like understand what's going on in the image and give you more information behind it. There's some really cool stuff that you can do in that space. So I thought that was a pretty neat thing that it suggested. And, you know, a little birdie may have told me you're going to be playing with multimodal capabilities in a future Advent challenge. So, you know, I don't want to spoil too much, but just get ready. You're going to get to play with some of these capabilities yourself. So let's say I wanted to share this as a resource. Well, if you sign in to this application, which you can find the sign in up here in the top right, And I've enabled sign in with Google, so you can sign in with your BC account or your personal account, doesn't really matter. By the way, a lot of these features were built by me chatting with an AI tool. I just said, hey, I want to build these things. Here are the tools that I want to use. And then me, with the domain area expertise in web development, I could look at the code that was generated, put my stamp of approval on it, maybe tweak a few things here and there, and then I was off and running with a new feature in literally minutes sometimes. It was pretty amazing to work on. So once you're signed in, first of all, you'll notice you get this little drop-down menu with a couple different things here. You can see now that I've got this little completed designation, so you have the ability to track how many days you've completed. But the other thing you get to do is you can share your experience for the day. So why don't I do that real quick? So if I click share, this is gonna pop up a little window, and the first section is a reflection section. And again, this was something that I decided to build in, thinking thoughtfully about how you use AI is really important, right? The space is moving so quickly. A lot of people, you might encounter like existential dread or something when you're working with these tools, or you might just be like super excited and want to reflect and share your experiences on that front. Or maybe you're ambivalent, there's a whole spectrum of ways you can be thinking about these tools. So this gives you an opportunity as you're interacting with each day. You can put your reflection in here if you'd like. It's private to you, no one else can see this. And it's just a good spot for you to kind of stop, pause, think about how you should be interacting with AI, where does it fit into your work, your personal life, or maybe where it doesn't fit into those spaces. Then I also provided you a resource section. So this is where you can actually share your activities for the day. And right now it's just a text box, but it does accept something called Markdown. And if you're not familiar with Markdown, I suggest having a chat with Gail, which is day number 2. And Gail is just a custom assistant that I built to help you learn more about artificial intelligence. But in short, Markdown is just a way to format plain text using text. So as an example, if I put in a hashtag, that designates different heading levels. So this could be like a heading level number 2, my chat with Chat GPT. Then you can describe what you were doing. Bullet points can be made by using hyphens or asterisks for unordered lists. You can also use numbers. So I could say 1, 2, and add a numbered list. Or if you want to include a link to a chat, maybe you want to share something, then you can follow the format in the example above. You put in brackets, you type in the text you want the link to appear, my link, and then in the parentheses, you put in the URL. So that's, really the basics of Markdown. I know that's super quick. Future improvement coming to the app, I'm going to add a little enhance button up here that actually sends off your request to a Google model to automatically format into Markdown for you. So if that's something you're interested in, just stay tuned for that. That's coming soon. The other thing you could do is mark this as public. So when you're done typing everything, if you want people to be able to see it and eventually interact with it, you can check this little box here, and upon saving, it will be added to the public resources page where people can share and get to see how other people at BC and beyond are interacting with this advent calendar. So for now, what I'm gonna do is just copy and paste my chat here. I'm gonna do it one at a time, just for now. My question. If you want to bold something, you can surround it by 2 asterisks. I'm gonna paste the text. Chat GPT's response. I'm gonna show a different way to do this here in a bit. Actually, instead of doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and just copy I'm going to use their little copy button down here and go ahead and paste that in here. So you'll see ChatGPT, when I use that button, it actually copies it as Markdown. So if you want to learn more about it, you can sort of learn by using the tools and the features that are available there. Markdown is very helpful to know because it helps with formatting for talking with different chat assistants. And it really comes in handy when you start to get into system prompting and custom instructions and stuff like that, which you'll learn about in a future Advent activity. So once you're done, you can hit Save Resource, and then you'll get a success message if everything went well. You'll get an error message if for some reason something went wrong. And to view the activities that I've created, I can go into my little profile section here and click on my shares. And then you can see I've got day 1 and then day 2 here. So if I click on View Details, you'll see the formatting that came through, which is right here. So you can see that it bolded the text. It added, looks like it didn't actually add the list items here, but that, maybe it was just the way that it was pasted into the text window. Right, so back out to day number 2, and you might have noticed I already added a resource for that, but real quick, day number 2 was just talking to Gail, which is kind of a funny name for this, but it's a generative AI literacy assistant that I created. I created this inside of ChatGPT using something called a custom GPT. And why don't I go ahead and mark this as complete 2, because I did actually complete that. And if I click on share, I can go into the resource that I created. And you can see here that I added this kind of funny resource here. So I had a chat with Gail about a couple LLM concepts, and then I provided the link. So actually, let me go back out to my shared activities. We can view the details for that day. And then I can click on this link to view the chat that I had. The reason I said surfs up in my shared resource was because at the end, I asked some serious questions, but then I can't help myself. I like to goof around with these tools. And I put at the very end of my prompt, do me a favor, respond as like a California surfer. Channel your inner Point Break, which is a movie reference from the 80s, a long time ago. But anyway, you can see how much it influences the way that these LLMs talk to you. So that's something when people start playing with these tools, that's a pretty common thing people do early on, is they try and have it talk to you in a different voice. Maybe it's a historical voice, maybe it's someone with a really strong character to them that you find entertaining or something like that. You can just ask it and it will change the tune and tone of the response pretty significantly. So I kind of had fun with this. If you want to read through this, you can. But the big things I asked here were like 2 big concepts with large language models, and that is how they work and basically how you interact with them and how you talk to them, how they recognize language, something called tokens in the context window. So you can read through this if you want a surfer explanation, or you can check out, I think it's actually today's Advent calendar activity, if I'm not mistaken, which should be in the 9th, yep. Yes, today's mini lesson is to understand some fundamentals about how these tools work. So if you don't want a surfer explanation, you can check out today's activity, which I'll be going through next week in a video for you. All right, moving on to day number 3 here. All right, so this was a fun day. I actually got a lot of response from this, which was kind of cool. But today was really about, December 3rd was really about just expressing a little bit of creativity using an AI chat assistant. And another cool thing about this AI Advent calendar, or at least that I think is cool, is again, I'm gonna be calling out like the different tools that you might have heard of, and then some other ones that you may or may not have heard of. So as an example, I call out ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini through something called AI Studio, which we're going to take a look at in a second, as well as Microsoft Copilot. And all of these tools, for the most part, I'm trying to keep them free. just so that you have the ability to engage with them. And for the examples that are not free, I'll be giving you detailed examples for that day so you can at least take a look at what's capable. So I thought for this challenge, why don't I go ahead and write a poem? I'm gonna use OpenAI's O1 model. This is hot off the presses. They just released it last Friday. And this is their most advanced reasoning model. It's supposed to be able to think more thoroughly through problems and solve real-world issues. And of course, I'm gonna have it write a poem, which is not really what it's meant for. But this is gonna be really handy, I think, in the legal space, in the medical field, financial areas, stuff like that, where you really need these tools to be able to think really deeply through the problem space. And part of that is gonna be being able to think through and asking the right questions and surfacing the right source material to it so it can have it loaded up in its conversation with you. But I'm gonna do kind of a more, I don't know, goofy example, I guess, by having it create a poem. So let's do this. Why don't we have it create a free verse poem? I guess I don't really need to copy and paste this necessarily. And I'm gonna go to ChatGPT and I'm gonna choose O1. So in case you're not aware, I have a pro subscription with, well, I guess ChatGPT Plus. They did just announce a pro subscription too, which is quite expensive. It's $200 a month, but that is not the subscription I have. I just have the regular Plus for 20 bucks a month, which is pretty standard for these tools. And when you go to chat with any one of these models, whether that's Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, typically you have a model dropdown that lets you select which model you're actually talking to. And you can see all the different models here that are available. So for this one, I'm gonna use O1. Don't worry, we'll come back. I'm gonna show you the different models later, but O1 is the most advanced reasoning. And the reason I wanna do this is because I sort of wanna test out something that traditionally trips up models, and that is to get them to either spell a word or use a certain letter or something like that throughout your task that you're asking it to do. So as an example, I'm gonna have it spell out the word gratitude, but I want it to use the second word of each line of the poem to spell it out. So kind of like a little secret message inside of the poem. So give me 1 sec, I'm gonna go type this up, we'll be right back. Okay, so while O1 is thinking, I'll just explain what I asked real quick, which was basically to create a free verse poem, essentially expressing my gratitude to the BC Law community for allowing me, that's funny. Oh boy, interesting. Let's see, maybe it didn't like the whole hidden message thing as a message in the poem. To do this, you should the first letter of the second word. Okay, so I had a couple issues with the first request. It was getting flagged for some reason for content issues, but I basically just refreshed the page and started a new chat and it did fine. So sometimes that happens where you get refusals to actually go forward with your request. But anyway, there you have it. So basically I just asked it to create a poem hiding the word gratitude in as the second word of each new line. So spelling it out with the first letter of that second word. And it actually did a good job. So, you know, I'll leave the subjectivity of whether or not this is a good poem or not to you, but what I will do is, but I'll go ahead and copy this and share it with the community inside of the Advent Calendar app. So similar thing, I'm going to copy and paste here. Now, ChatGPT does have a share feature, but because this is part of a team subscription, it actually limits shares to only people inside of the team, so that's why I'm copying and pasting. The example that I use with Gail actually uses a personal account, so that's why I was able to just share the link to the chat. And if you did want to share it just as the link, you can click the share button here, and then you can choose Create Link. And it's as simple as that, and it'll copy it to your clipboard, and then you can paste that into the Advent Calendar application. But for now, what I'm gonna do is just copy and paste both of these messages. It's easy enough to do that. Mark that as complete. I'm going to go ahead and share this to the community here. I asked. Okay, great. So that is December 3rd, all taken care of, completed that day. Moving on to December 4th. This was a day where you got to interact with Notebook LM. And Notebook LM really flew into the limelight around the fall semester, like sometime mid-fall semester, because of its feature that allows you to turn material into a podcast between two AI hosts. And I did quite a bit of experimentation with that feature. I really like it. Some of my own personal use cases, a few of my favorites are things like I've uploaded some of my past workshops and then basically had back and forth conversations with them as source material to get some tips for like improving my delivery of things, to see what types of things that I was missing as part of my educational material and stuff like that. So I kind of used it as seeking input on how I'm delivering learning material to you, which I thought was kind of a cool way to use it. I've also used it to upload research papers, and then I can listen to them as a podcast, basically, on my walk to work, which has been helpful. So it helps you kind of catch up quickly on content and material that you want to read through. It also allows you to create different notes and things like that. And it's a really cool tool. So if you didn't have a chance to interact with this particular challenge, I highly suggest doing it. I even uploaded a couple real-world examples. One particular example, if you listen to this podcast, by the end of it, it actually really made me rethink and reflect on creating inclusive and non-harmful AI chat assistants, right? Like I created this assistant. It was called Sully. The AI assistant, is kind of a typical, New England persona, like specifically from Southie, so you can sort of guess like some of the stereotypes and stuff like that come into play there. And they really, there was a certain part of the podcast towards the end, again, I highly recommend listening to it, but basically they started talking about how Boston isn't a monolith. Not everybody has this sort of Southie, towny persona, right? Like Boston is a rich cultural area. There's all kinds of people from all over the place. And, they noted, which of course is true, that the whole reason I created this persona was to have fun, right? Like it wasn't harmful. In fact, in my custom instructions, I even put, you should not propagate like stereotypical behaviors and stuff like that. This isn't meant to be harmful. This is meant to be fun and light and things along those lines. However, they really did make me think, you know what, as a person, in fact, one of the lines that they said was, we should be using AI to reflect the best parts of humanity back to us, which I thought was an amazing insight from these two AI co-hosts. So, that's going to stick with me. I'm going to take that into how I'm creating AI resources and AI personas in the future, where I don't want to be furthering potentially harmful stereotypes. This was all in good fun. You can have conversations with them and still have fun with it, but you don't want to lean into anything that might be perceived as harmful or something like that. So anyway, I just figured I would share that as an experience. So maybe that would be something I put into the reflection area, right? Like I want to keep that to myself, or maybe I do want to share that as just the shared experience that I have, like talking with these tools. You learn deep insights where you might not think you would, and that's a pretty cool thing. So that was one cool experience I figured I would share with using Notebook LM. And also really quickly, just to show you the interface in case you haven't seen it, you can go to notebooklm.google.com. Now you will have to sign up with a non-BC account for now, but I've heard the grapevine we might be getting access to this with your BC accounts. or that you can request access and be given access to it. But one thing that I use it for actually is for this very Advent calendar project. So I created a Google Doc that essentially talks through my idea for the project and then is a running list of the different activities that I have planned. So that way I can have a back and forth conversation. It uses Google Gemini under the hood as the AI model that is interpreting and allowing you to talk in natural language to the document resource that you upload. And a lot of features inside of Notebook LM that are cool. So if I click on the Notebook guide, this is sort of the brains of the whole operation. You can upload a bunch of different sources over here, and then you're able to create like study guides from them. So if you were working in a class, you can upload your class notes or research articles or legal research or something like that you need to interact with or learn about, and then you can start having natural conversation back and forth with it. But the really cool thing, in my opinion, the most fun way to use it is this AI podcast overview. It couldn't be simpler to do. When you haven't created one, there's just a button here that just says generate podcast. You click it, Google goes off and does its thing, and in 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, it comes back at you with an AI podcast, which is really fun and really lifelike. So I'm gonna leave a link to a couple of these so you can get a sense of like what they sound like. I highly recommend checking them out or create one yourself. So this is Notebook LM. It's pretty self-explanatory. I recommend just getting in there and playing around with it. All right, so let's talk about, let me mark this day as complete because I am done, right? And let's go into day number 5. So here we talk about designing your very own AI persona. And this is something that I do quite a bit. Sometimes they're for real world use cases, otherwise just known as like chat assistants. But sometimes I like to create ones that have a certain flair or personality to them, just to keep things entertaining, to be quite honest. So this is a good way to dip your toes in there. So I kind of like alluded to Sully here. For one of my previous AI workshops, I made a Mike's Pastry GPT that always interjected different pastries and slammed on modern. So, you know, it's really fun to like throw in some local references and things like that. If you're working with these tools, I always have a good time doing that. So let's pick something, and I'm just going to show you my process for creating one of these things. And you might be surprised at how easy it can be. So I kind of like the Bob Ross example here. I had another example that written down that I might do as well. So if I go over to, let's go back to ChatGPT here. We're going to create a new chat. And then I have a custom assistant that's actually meant to help me create other custom assistants. So I might show that off for the second one. For the first one, let's just do this manually. I would like to create an assistant that explains everything in the style of Bob Ross. Can you help come up with a system prompt persona for me to save? This assistant. Okay, so basically I'm just asking exactly like I would ask a person, right? Like, hey, I'm looking to do this. Can you help me achieve my goal? It's pretty specific, right? I want to say, help me come up with a prompt or persona for me to save. The assistant, I want it to still be like a super smart AI assistant in all areas and all fields, stuff like that. But I just wanted to explain it to me with a healthy dose of Bob Ross. So this is really like how I start. Working with, oh, and I left it at 01, which is kind of funny. So I'm just gonna use what it gave me, but typically I wouldn't use 01 for something like this. I would use maybe GPT 4.0 or even 4.0 with Canvas. Here's a good opportunity to show off this feature. So now that I have this particular system prompt, Canvas is a feature that allows you to iterate and go back and forth with a chat tool inside of the browser. So it gives you like a text editor, and it also lets you do things like you can highlight sections that you want to change or improve upon, or you can just chat and ask for it to improve. And it keeps versions of it in its own separate window. So it makes it a little bit easier to work on and collaborate with an AI tool on a specific project, especially for written work. So why don't I go ahead and ask, can you create a canvas so we can iterate together? Another kind of like hot tip, you can switch models mid-conversation in ChatGPT, which is pretty cool. Sometimes, depending on the features you're using, it might not let you switch back and forth. At the moment, O1 does not support images, for example, so if you're using images either as part of your prompt back and forth, or you have it create images using DALL-E, you might not be able to switch, but for the most part, you can switch pretty seamlessly back and forth between these tools. So you can see already, like even just switching to ChatGPT 4.0, it's filling in a lot more because it tends to be more verbose, for one, but two, it's also meant to be a little bit more helpful and human-like, whereas O1 is really meant for more like serious type of work. So this is pretty common for things like creating a custom assistant, custom persona, and I didn't even have to prompt it. Like now this type of stuff is just knowledge that's built into these large language models. So you can see it creates whole sections of like, here are your behavioral guidelines, and it's like kind of prompting it and prodding it for words to use. Here's some example scenarios and responses that you can give here. Points for the voice and style, signature phrases to sprinkle in. Yeah, so I mean, this already does a really good job, but let's say I wanted to change up one of these examples. So like here, what I can do is I could highlight this entire section, and then I get a little contextual menu. So I can say, ask ChatGPT, let's use a legal example, an example for coming up with a weekly meal plan, and an example for crafting an image using an AI image generator. So you can highlight it, you can ask questions, you can have it like refine. I just wanted it to improve upon these particular examples. This is arbitrary, of course, but you could do this with anything. And when you do this, it's only gonna update this section of the canvas that we're working on together. So why don't I just go ahead and send that off? And you should see it replace this. It looks like it's gonna replace the whole thing. So you can see it's actually going through currently. This little animation is showing it going through the work that it created, and it's gonna get down to this example scenario response section and start typing out some new material. So you should see it update here in just a second. So it looks like it's actually just adding additional examples rather than replacing them, which is fine. I wasn't specific about what I was asking there. And you can see, even in the examples, like it's kind of going off on this Bob Ross style written aesthetic, if you will. So then the way you interact with this, if I click copy over here, if you pay for one of these tools, you can create a custom GPT. I'm gonna save that for a different video. Another thing you can do pretty easily is just start a new chat, and then as your first chat here, I'm gonna delete some of the backend instructions. and I'm gonna delete the first couple of formatting things here and just like the response to me. What I'm gonna do is, as my first conversation with a chat tool, you can sort of steer the direction here. So I'm gonna give it this persona as the first conversation, and it should, yep, it acknowledges that it's ready to help me with whatever it is that I need help with. So let's see, let me think about a question. I'll be right back. Why don't we just have Bob Ross create a poem about gratitude here? Okay, so there's the poem. You know, I'm not really feeling the Bob Ross. I'm not feeling the Bob Ross inspiration enough. Okay, there we go. We got a few of the key phrases here. So every little brushstroke, a happy little tree. That's kind of the funny thing about talking to these tools too. Like, you can be really specific and detailed and do meaningful work. You can also just say pretty like wild stuff like this, where I'm not feeling the inspiration enough. More, please. I could just say the word more or do better or something like that. So prompting really is, or can be, an art rather than a science sometimes, and you'll get a feel for this as you interact with these tools. Okay, so mark as complete. We're gonna save our progress, and why don't I just go ahead and put the poem that I created into the day here. I created a poem with a Bob Ross inspired chat assistant. Enjoy. Okay, we are out there in the wilds. So let's look at day 6 here. So this is holiday themed images, and as a starter, what I wanted to do was give you an opportunity to play around with an image generator. And in this case, I'm highlighting Google Gemini. And within Google Gemini, they have another image model. It's called Imagen 3. And this is how they create images. So what they do typically is you'll ask Gemini in the chat interface or via this Google AI Test Kitchen, which I'm actually going to show that off, because we all have access to Google Gemini with our BC account. If I open this up, you know, you're brought to this prompt here, so I can ask for an image here, which I'm going to do in just a second. I'll come back to that. Or you can go to the AI Test Kitchen, which I'm going to paste in here, which is another thing that you are able to sign in with your BC account. I've signed in with my personal account here, but the AI Test Kitchen actually creates a grid of 4 images at a time, and you can use like their defaults, or say I'm feeling lucky and have it fill in a prompt for you, or you can come up with your own prompt. I'm going to use one from the challenge here just to kind of show off some of the features. So if I wanted to use Google Gemini, I'm going to show you both here. Let's just ask for a decorated Christmas tree. Can you provide and it's as simple as that. You just ask for it. That seems to have given me a link on the web, which is kind of interesting. I guess it delivered. That's not what I'm asking though. No, I want you to generate an image for me. Why don't I just say it's for a holiday card? There we go, now it's creating an image. So it's gonna let you know I'm creating with Imagen 3, and then in just a second, you'll see the image that it generated here. So if I wanted to use the other tool, I'm gonna show off one of these other example prompts because it is pretty good at doing different kinds of styles, and you do have to like know a little bit about prompting image tools to get the most out of it. But again, that is something that you kind of learn over time. The whole point of this is to just get familiar and get some practice with using image generation. So I'll show off a couple different things in this other tool. We'll go to Image FX here. I'm gonna paste in my prompt. And this is gonna showcase one thing that I like, which is Imagen 3 is really good at text, actually. It doesn't get it right all the time, but it does a better job than most image generators, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit create. One of the cool features about this particular tool is once it sort of takes your prompt, it will highlight certain tokens here. And by tokens, I just mean like words that it's using for the prompt. So I can choose different options. It gives you a drop down and you can choose from different things here. So here we go. Here's the BC Eagle. You can see some of the text is messed up. But the sign that it's holding, mile 20, you've got this, was correct. This is a wild looking image. I kind of like AI art because it is so weird sometimes, but there you have it. And I did ask for an illustrative style, so maybe, why don't I try like a photo realistic here? So we're gonna say editorial photo. And at the end, what I'm gonna do is put in like a lens type. Let's say 35 millimeter. And some of these words, this is just from my own experience. I know that these words are gonna give a more photo-realistic vibe, and giving it like specific lens types, as you can see here, that completely changed it up. Now we've got like the aperture, which is wide open, which means like there's gonna be a blurry background, stuff like this. This, besides the text on the shirt, which I could probably wrap in quotes, like that's another tip. If you want to see accurate text, you can wrap in quotes. Yep, we've got Baldwin standing sort of in a hill, looking maybe like it's in our area. Yeah, the text is not doing great on these particular images, but you can see it's actually getting like sort of the gist and kind of the vibe. So AI art is more like you're gonna be retrying a bunch to get what you're looking for, but this is just another kind of fun thing to play around with. And if you wanted to share the links as part of your share here, you can just click copy share link, and then you can just paste that into the activity for the day. So if I go back to the advent calendar, I'm gonna share my Baldwin experience here. Right, and then it's gonna go to this particular image. We'll make that public and move on to the last day of the week here. So for the last activity for the first week of this advent calendar, I encourage you to go talk to Suno. And Suno is a music generator. It's really good. It's probably one of the best, if not the best, music generator at the moment. They just released a new version called version 4 that is really, really good at creating music. The lyrics are clear. It doesn't sound super robotic for the most part. And the instrumentation is very clear. Really fun to play around with. You can use it for free. I think you can generate 10 songs a day for free. And I happen to subscribe just for 1 month so I can play around with version 4 because I like generating music. There's a lot of cool features here, but I just wanted you, again, to get a chance to play around with some of these tools. Maybe you haven't heard of them. And I gave some example songs. I found one the other day about, the sort of like phenomenon of Mudang, cultural icon of this year. So anyway, I highly recommend checking this out. If you haven't, you can go to suno.com and sign up for a free account if you'd like to play around. So what I did, I actually want to show my conversation that I had. So this is like a multi-step process for me when I'm doing something like this. I went to ChatGPT. To help me get up and running with some lyrics for a song. I wanted to create a song, again, sort of dedicated to the law school. This is in the same vein as some of my other prompts from this particular video. Just about like expressing my gratitude for being able to pursue my passions and interests here, and being able to work with such like wonderful colleagues and wonderful community. I really, this time of year does make me kind of like reflect back on that. So I wanted to express my gratitude to you all. Now, I gave it just a very simple prompt saying that up front, and then I had it ask me some questions. Like I wanted to be more personable, so why don't you ask me some follow-up questions that might help you to create some lyrics. So it asked me questions, I answer them, and then you can see here, this is like that memory feature that I talked about at the beginning of the video where it updates things about you. While I'm here, I am going to share one funny story about myself. It shouldn't take too long. I know this video is going on very long. But my first couple of years that I worked here, I actually thought that Dean Hashimoto, one of our faculty members here, was in fact a dean of some kind at the law school. And when I first started here, I was a TC, so I was in the computer support department, same as I am currently, but just a different role. And so I would often be tasked with like going out and helping, like doing basic desktop support types of things. And every time I had to help Dean, I would walk in his office and greet him with his full name because I thought he was a dean. So I would say, "Hey, Dean Hashimoto, how's it going?" And I can only imagine, I don't even think I've told him this story before, but I can only imagine what he thought when I would walk in and say his entire name as I greeted him. So when I finally realized this, one, I was super embarrassed, but then I immediately told my supervisor at the time the story and we had a good laugh about it. So I figured I would allude to that in this song, and I think it really delivered the final product, which I'm gonna play on our way out of here. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was just the back and forth nature. Like as I'm talking with these tools, I get inspired and have this spark of creativity that maybe I otherwise wouldn't have, or it really lights up areas for me that I'm like, oh yeah, like I actually want to go down this rabbit hole instead. So for here, I don't know why I decided to do this, but for some reason I had the idea of like an emo kind of genre in my head, like early 2000s. If you're familiar with any of these bands, you probably know exactly the type of style that I was going for. But I wanted to influence the song with that characteristic. So ChatGPT, of course, understands exactly what I'm going for. It has all of this knowledge sort of just like loaded up inside of its understanding and inside of its learning. It's learned all of these connections through its training, and it's able to just understand exactly what you're talking about, almost no matter what subject, which is one of the great powers of these tools. So it came up with these lyrics, and then it also helped me come up with a musical description that I could provide to Suno to help the song along. I even asked for some song title suggestions, so I had quite a bit of fun, and then off we go. So that's just a quick overview. I am going to just pull up the song here in Suno. And you can see here was my musical description that I added, and here are the lyrics, and I'm actually gonna play us out on this particular song, but real quick, I'm just gonna show you how easy it is to create. So if you go to the create window, You get a couple different options here. Here are my other songs that I've generated, but you can choose your model here. Most of you will probably choose 3.5. It's the best available. Like I said, you've got about 10 songs you can do. You can even upload audio samples. So I play guitar. I've uploaded very short riffs or examples of me playing and have it finish an entire song for me, which is amazing. It'll add drums and bass and someone singing over it. It's pretty phenomenal stuff. So you can enter lyrics if you want. You can have Suno generate them for you, or like I did, you can generate them inside of ChatGPT. You can choose to make this an instrumental or not. And then this is where that style of music goes. So this is where you do things like, sure, Sybase. I don't even know what this is. Let's do an instrumental Sybase song. Just see what comes back. Once you start generating them, they're gonna start loading up here. And once it has enough audio to start playing back for you, it will be able to be played down here. So once this loads up, depending on what it sounds like, I might play a little sample for you, but why don't we listen to When Dean Wasn't the Dean. I'm gonna play us out with this, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a lot, it's pretty long, but I had fun going through this week's activities, and I'm excited to go through next week's activities with you as well. So I hope you join along. Feel free to add your experiences in the comments on this video or on the app itself, and I hope to see you in another video.
Chasing the title, thought you were a dean, but it's just your name. And isn't that just how it feels to get it wrong but laugh the same? This place, it lets me breathe through the cracks where passion bleeds. It's messy, it's weird, but it's home to me. Here's to the ones who gave me space to dream, who didn't laugh when I learned what dean means. Every project, every joke, every late night scheme, I've built a better me because of this team. Alex, you handed me a spark, said go learn to code, build something wild. Now there's a website singing this song, but really it's you who built my style. Here's to the ones who gave me space to dream, who didn't laugh when I learned what dean means. Every project, every joke, every late night scheme, I've built a better me because of this team. And if you ask me in 10 years what I remember about being here, it's not the code, not the AI songs, it's the way we laughed, the way we belonged. It's the moments where I got it wrong, but you let me keep singing along. To the ones who let me fall apart, who turned my quirks into works of art. Every stumble, every laugh, every fragile start, you held the space where I built my heart. I thought Dean was the dean, but I know better now. Still laughing at the punchline, still figuring out how. This place is messy, it's weird, and it's my favorite sound. I'm so grateful, I hope I've made you proud.